The world knows Diane Rehm as a fearless and adept interviewer. But her prominence on the nation's airwaves would most likely surprise her parents, who had no such expectations for their daughter's future.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Diane Rehm. A little more than a year ago, Greece received
She was born and raised in the close-knit Syrian Christian community in Washington, D.C., and no easy passage existed between the world of her family and the outside world.
In 1929, my father went back to the old country, to Alexandria, Egypt, where my mother was living. And she was engaged to someone else. But he, because the families knew each other, I guess my father's proposal took precedence. He married her in April of 1929, took her on a wonderful honeymoon, and came here. Just one problem, and that is that my dad had his entire family with him. My mother had to leave her entire family behind, and I think that was hard. I can still see her writing letters in beautiful Arabic to her mother quite frequently, and still see those letters coming with that airmail stationery, that blue airmail stationery with the rim, and she looked forward to those letters so much. I think she had a hard time with two young girls who were very much a part of the American community, whereas she strictly a part of the Syrian community. As I finished writing my own book, all of a sudden it occurred to me, think of the courage my mother had to leave her family behind. She saw her mother once more when I was 12, and my grandmother came, and she could speak no English, and of course I could speak very little Arabic, but she taught me. And we would sit on the front porch together. She was a smoker. She had this long black silk hair, and I used to touch her hair and feel it, and she'd pass me a cigarette and let me smoke with her on the front porch, which my mother, of course, never knew. But my grandmother had a very different attitude from that of my mother. She was easygoing, she was filled with laughter and joy, and that's what makes me wonder about my mother. Had she been able to stay in her own country, would she have been a happier person? I knew I had to find more in life. I was perhaps just more ambitious. And I know ambition is kind of a strange word to use in there, but I think there was some kind of drive in me that said there is something more out there, and I want that something. Why in the world would he be interested in this little Arab girl with no education, from humble beginnings? Of course, I found out his beginnings were humble as well, but nevertheless, the excitement of ideas. And he became the teacher, and I, the pupil, for so many years until I began to break out from that as well. Most of the women of my generation, whether Arab American or otherwise, were at home and happy at home. And, you know, I was happy at home too, but I just knew I wanted something more. This sounds like raising the debt ceiling here in this country. Very similar.
Very similar thing. When Mexico came to the U.S. in 1981 and said, we can't pay.
What did the Greek ambassador say to you afterwards?
He said he had a really nice time being on. He was happy to be invited.
He was so cute.
He was, and like I was saying, I thought he, compared to a lot of ambassadors or how much they might feel they're able to say, I thought, he said more than I expected.
Exactly.
Really.
Did you think that he was frank?
He confessed that most of them avoid taxes. That example about 300 people say they have swimming pools and about 6,000 from an aerial view actually do. So that was fun. Both programs were really terrific. Mondays are hard, but those shows were really good. So I thank you. I can remember how excited I was to get up each morning and go through the newspapers and start thinking, what ideas can I offer? What's new? What's in the news? And then taking them into an office, tiny little office. But how wonderful an experience, really. What kind of job did the media do?
Well, this was far from the media's finest hour. And Diane, you asked me at the beginning why I set out to do the book. It's obvious that we can't set the record straight about the anthrax letter attacks and then learn lessons from them that apply directly to our public safety without letting the chips fall where they may.
David Willman, his new book is titled The Mirage Man, Bruce Ivins, The Anthrax Attacks, and America's Rush to War. Congratulations on your book.
Thank you so much, Diane.
Thanks for listening, all. I'm Diane Rehm.
The Diane Rehm Show is produced by Sandra Pinker, Nancy Robertson, Susan
My
Davis,
goosebumps are still here from that one caller,
Monica
that sister.
Nazareth, and
That
Sarah
is
Ashworth.
absolutely amazing.
The engineer is
I tried everything I
Peter
could to
Reiner.
talk to Catherine Price and never was
Answers the
successful.
phone.
Really?
So here was obviously her sister. Your show is amazing. The reach is there. This is incredible, man.
I don't know if they'd be proud or they'd be embarrassed or they'd be wondering what in the world I was about, because my life is so different from anything either of them ever had or perhaps even imagined.